Hello, my name's Mr. Elliott and I'm the Faculty Leader of Maths at Harrogate Grammar School. Welcome to this Year 10 Maths information video. I'm just going to take a few moments today to tell you some information about the qualification that your son or daughter will be sitting in just under 2 years' time. So the Maths GCSE that we use uses the exam board AQA. It's on the 9-to-1 grading scale. In terms of the assessment of this qualification, there are 3 equally weighted exam papers which are taken at the end of Year 11. There's 1 paper which is non-calculator and then 2 papers which consist of calculator work. Each of the papers are an hour and a half long and each paper has 80 marks available. Given that the new GCSE has 2 papers which consist of calculator work and 1 which is non-calculator, it's really important that students have the correct calculator. We recommend the calculator that is on screen now. This calculator has additional functionality which some others do not, and that can be really useful for students, particularly for some of the harder topics. This calculator is also the one that we would recommend for the post-16 courses at 6th form, so that's core maths, AS level maths, A level maths and further maths. So if that's something that your son or daughter may be considering, the investment of buying it now will also be useful in the future. In GCSE Maths, unlike some other GCSEs, there are still the tiering system. So there's 2 tiers of entry, a higher tier and a foundation tier. On the higher tier, the grades 9 to 4 are available, and on the foundation tier, 5 to 1. The higher tier grades are higher because it contains content which is not on the foundation tier that is significantly more difficult. In terms of decisions about tiering, these are not made until later on in Year 11. Even though the Year 10 classes will be working towards a particular tier, this does not mean that those students will be fixed towards entering those tiers, as things may change over the course of the year or into Year 11. Schools are only advised to enter students onto the higher paper who are confidently achieving a grade 5. Now, this is important because the lowest grade available on the higher tier is a grade 4. So we want to make sure that we're giving students both the opportunity to achieve the highest grade they possibly can, but also minimise the risk of any chance of them not achieving a grade. So in terms of our decisions about tiers of entry, we consider the fact that a grade 5 is the minimum grade we would consider a student to be achieving in order to get the higher tier of entry. So on screen now you can see the information about the current classes in Year 10. So some things to note about this. Sets 1 and 2 on both sides of the year, L and R, they're working towards the higher tier. 5 and 6 on both sides are working towards the foundation tier. And then we have sets 3 and 4. On screen it says higher, they are both working on higher content, but with sets 3 and 4 they are parallel sets, so they are of equal ability. And those sets are sets that we haven't finally decided whether it will be higher or foundation. The idea is that we will work towards the higher and then make appropriate changes towards the end of Year 10 into Year 11 to decide which students should be doing which tiers of entry and what those classes should be working on in terms of their content. But currently they're all working towards higher. The GCSE Maths qualification is a really challenging and really difficult qualification. On screen now you can see some grade boundaries for the higher and the foundation tier, and you can see that over those 3 years the pass grade, the grade 4 on the higher tier, is between 18 and 20%. On foundation tier it's just above 50%. So there you can see not only the difficulty involved but also the differences between the tier of entry, and that students who are aiming for grade 4 are more likely in general to achieve that on a foundation tier. So why is the new GCSE more difficult? Well, it's more difficult because there's a greater emphasis on problem solving. So it's not just like on the old GCSE specification where students had to use the knowledge of the different techniques and topics that we studied and just apply it in a non-trivial way. Here they have to think about what techniques they would have to use and apply it to unseen, unknown problems. In addition to that, there will be a range of different contexts in which the topics will be assessed within. Some will be mathematical, some may not. So that increased difficulty leads to the fact that those grade boundaries are lower. So here's an example of question on a new GCSE. So this is a question about similar shapes. It's a show that question, which you can see down the bottom. So here the students are not only having to solve this problem and work out the answer, they need to show it. So it's in terms of their communication is also important here, and how they present that answer to ensure that they have all the necessary steps in order to get the full marks available. This might be different from some previous questions that we would have seen on the old specification, where it might just be more of a standard two similar triangles. So here we can see an increased complexity. So what do we think works well in terms of getting the best possible results for students? Well, contact with parents and students is really important, and I would encourage students and parents to communicate with their classroom teacher where necessary. So if you have any concerns or you need any extra work, please do speak to your classroom teachers. Regular assessments and mock exams we will do throughout the year, and these are vital assessment tools so we can understand not only how students are progressing, but also if there are any gaps which we need to help bridge. We will do work with GCSE past papers at relevant times. We will issue revision resources during the exam periods. And throughout Year 10 and Year 11, there will be comprehensive intervention program for students who are appropriate for that. We will also have some after school revision sessions, which will be starting shortly. And these will be available for any student to drop in for any additional math support they wish to have. So what do we think helps? Well, students should be ready for every lesson, ready to learn and engaging with the work that the teacher and them are embarking on. They should attempt all classwork and homework. The work they produce, they should take pride in. The presentation, that's really important, not only just for them, but also for the teacher. If they present their work in a nice, clear, methodical way, it will be easier for the students to follow the work that they're doing and spot mistakes. It also helps the teacher when the teacher is then marking or looking at the work and assisting with the student. Students taking responsibility for their own learning is a really powerful way of them taking ownership of their learning journey, and will help them motivate them to build towards that target that they're trying to achieve. When working from home, I would recommend that they have a workspace free from distractions, whether that be phones or otherwise, and bring in all their own equipment. Especially important is a calculator and not an iPad. The reason for this is multiple, but a key one is that the students need to be comfortable and confident using their classroom calculators, and if they use their iPads rather than the calculators, they're not going to have that confidence when they go into the exams. So it's really important they have a calculator, a consistent calculator that they bring every lesson, and they're really confident with that calculator. Thank you very much for listening to this today, and if you do have any questions, please do get in touch with the email at the beginning of this video. Thank you again. Bye bye.